When it comes to giving a camp tour, one of the most important things is just enthusiasm. You want the people giving your camp tour to be enthusiastic. You want them to know your camp story. You want them to know the present, what happened in the past, what happened in the future. You want to train your staff how to give a great camp tour. Or you want to only have people give tours that are great at giving tours. Because in that group of people that you're touring around, whether it's an official tour, whether it's a group that's thinking about renting your facility, whether it's a mom and dad that just want to drop their camper off for a summer, they could be possible future donors. They could be possible future volunteers. They are taking your story back to their hometown, to their home church, and telling people about all the great things going on at camp. So camp tours are actually, in my opinion, one of the most important things your staff can do, and they need to do it well, and they need to do it with enthusiasm. When it comes to a camp tour, you just don't want to show buildings and locations. You want to tell stories about those buildings and stories about those locations. If you can be funny, you want funny stories. Some of the best stories that we tell on our tours is how one of our zip lines was made wrong and we had to adjust it because it didn't work when we first installed it, or when this thing or that thing went wrong, because it keeps people engaged in the story and it makes your camp seem real. And so when you tell stories, you want emotional stories, you want interesting stories, you want statistics. How many kids got saved at your camp last summer? One of the issues about camp tours is you need to make sure that you're consistent with your stories. I had a story about one of our donors that I told during one of our tour sites, which was the barn where we had built a climbing wall. And I had a gentleman that went on multiple tours with me over the years, and he mentioned that I keep telling the story differently every time I tell it. And I didn't realize that I was doing that at all. So make sure your stories are consistent. How many weeks were you on waiting lists? How many weeks were you really full? Are your numbers up or down versus last year? What information can you give during a tour that'll help people understand your camp? One of the things that we also use is we use catchphrases around camp. Safe, fun, gospel, death-defying and social. All these different things that we can use to describe our camp and how it works. And we also make sure people know that we're a year-round facility. It's amazing how many times people don't know that camps go year-round. So we explain what happens year-round. So one of the things you want to do is to make sure that you're showing the people that are on your tours what's coming next. And you can show them it with a piece of paper and show them a picture, or you can take them to sites and say, this is what we're going to build here, and make sure your tour guides know exactly the purpose behind that building that's about to come up so that they can explain it well to the people that are touring. When it comes to giving tours, one of the things that I like to do is make sure I have handouts. These are the characters that are at our Wildwoods camps. This is a building that we're about to build. This is a concept that we started with that turned into this idea. It's very important that you not only show them buildings, but you give them a piece of paper that explains where the idea started or where the idea is going to finish. Don't just walk around and point at buildings, but give them hands-on examples of the thought process of how the camp comes into creation and where the ideas come from. So one of the things I think we underestimate about a camp tour is the fact that people on that tour could be future donors. I've given a tour here before and talked about how we have waiting lists at our Timber Ridge camp. And coming off that tour, I had a gentleman come up to me and ask me, what can I do to make that waiting list go away? And his family donated to us an entire cabin that fall. They wrote the check so we could build an entire cabin off of a camp tour and me just mentioning, hey, we have waiting lists. There's all sorts of different things that can come from tours, whether it's volunteers, whether it's people writing checks towards camp. So you want to communicate during your tour, man, we fundraise using this format. We have a Project 365 that's $1 a day towards our original camp, our point camp. And if you're from way back in the day and that's the camp you love the most, you can give $365 a year to help maintain and keep that camp going. Little things like that that you mention during a tour that somebody grabs a hold of that can be future dollars for your camp. One of the ways to know if you've given a great tour is if you've given people stuff that they can take back home and share. If you can tell them stories that'll stay in their minds. If you can give them things that they'll remember to tell their friends. Or that you have people that'll follow up with, yes, we will come at your camp and be a retreat there, or yes, we definitely are going to send our kids or our grandkids or things like that. You want the tour to have an end result with the people that are on it.